Part 2. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Xionglang Guo. Chapter 11. Lend me that strength you had in the hospital. We've used them all, he. If you still want them, eat them. Fists rained down like raindrops. There were more than 30 big men in the factory, but Li Anping knocked down a dozen of them. Several people helped them out, and the remaining dozen or so surrounded the injured Li Anping. At the beginning, Li Anping could still rely on his strength to defend or counterattack. But within minutes, the gunshot wound had severely weakened him. The first part to be hit was the thigh. Before Li Anping could react, a man stepped on his wound. The severe pain made Li Anping scream. Li Anping punched the man away, and was hit on the back with a stick, causing him to lie down on the cement floor. He struggled to stand up, but the big men around him were like ghosts in hell, grabbing him with countless hands and trying to drag him towards hell. These people usually follow Chang Zheng and show off their power all day long. Almost everyone's hands are stained with blood. They are called big brothers by the younger brothers outside. When had I ever suffered such a big loss? A dozen of them were knocked down by one person. It would be a huge shame to tell them. Now that I seize the opportunity, I will naturally not let Li Anping go. However, they fight all year round and are very measured in their attacks. Since Chang Zheng said he would be tortured, they naturally would not beat Li Anping to death. But even so, in just a few minutes, Li Anping's body was torn and bloody, and he was thrown to the ground like a tattered rag doll. Aren't you looking for us to seek justice? Outside the crowd, the villain's wild laughter stimulated Li Anping's nerves. Why don't you take action yet? As long as you absorb the souls of a few people, you can turn the situation around. The voice in my head mocked Li Anping. Seeing that Li Anping was still unmoved, the voice couldn't help shouting, "Trash, you trash, if you continue like this, no one will be able to avenge you, you will only be stepped on forever, and you will become a person that no one can protect of waste." The grievance of being wronged, the pain of having a loved one killed, Chang Zheng's wantonness, and strong emotions erupting like a volcano. Li Anping felt as if a cold air came out of his body, and as if something woke up in his mind, he stretched out a hand and grabbed the ankle kicked by someone. "Damn it! Why don't you let go?" The man found that his ankle was grabbed by Li Anping, raised his other foot and stepped on Li Anping's arm. He could even step on it a few times, but Li Anping would hold on tightly and not want to let go. Let go. Several people nearby saw it and hurriedly came over to help hit Li Anping's arms and shoulders. Some kicked him, while others hit him with a steel pipe. The person whose ankle was grabbed suddenly shivered. Why is it getting colder and colder? Then he felt his ankle tighten, and a huge suction force surged up. Eat him, eat him. Forever become one and become the source of our strength. Eat, Li Anping. The man fell down instantly. The people around him were confused when they saw the situation, but Li Anping had already released his hand. What's wrong? Is he sick? Are you having cramps? Look at him, what's going on? A man pointed at Li Anping on the ground and said with fear on his face. Li Anping was still lying on the ground as before, but his sweatshirt kept rising and falling, as if a giant python was swimming in it. The sounds of bones and muscles twisting sounded one after another, making people feel chilled from the bottom of their hearts. Li Anping stood up slowly, and the wounds on his body slowly closed and healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The muscles expanded little by little, and the person looked taller, almost over 2 meters tall. His eyes seemed to be coated with blood. "You, all must die." Rushing into the crowd, Li Anping opened his bow left and right, and hit the 2 people on the head with his fists. They flew out. In mid-air, their neck bones made a clicking sound, and their heads and necks twisted into a ball before they fell to the ground. Has lost its breath. After absorbing the souls of 2 people again, Li Anping felt that his body was overflowing with energy, as if there was endless power about to burst out. With a wave of one hand, he swept away all the hands, feet, and weapons that were attacking him. Use a gun, pull it out. Monster! Don't run away, shoot together. Bang, bang. Blood spattered on Li Anping's body, and the huge impact penetrated his bones and muscles, causing his body to fall backward. Being hit by a pistol again, Li Anping did not lose his ability to resist. The energy he absorbed previously continued to repair his body and gave him stronger strength. Prone on the ground, Li Anping quickly crawled towards the shadows in the warehouse. The severe pain caused his body to act completely according to instinct. As mentioned before, in addition to a large area of open space in this warehouse, there are also many remaining containers and boxes. It was already night, and the goods were placed haphazardly in the warehouse, forming large shadows. What's going on? Why did you shoot again? Chang Zheng rushed over again when he heard the gunfire. He was still holding two dogs in his hands and was growling uneasily into the shadows. He looked at the fallen body. Chang Zheng, the three people on the ground, yelled angrily, "What did you do? With so many people, you can't even handle an injured loser." Several big men stuttered to explain what happened just now. Hearing them say that he was possessed by a ghost and that it was useless to shoot, Chang Zheng waved his hand impatiently. "He is in this warehouse, why don't you find him for me?" At this moment, Li Anping suddenly rushed out. He crawled on all fours like a snake, but his speed was amazing. He left a series of afterimages and disappeared into the shadows. Chang Zheng stared blankly at the place where the afterimage disappeared. He turned his head and saw that the head of the little brother who was talking to him before was gone. The hideous wound on his neck was like a devil's smile, and blood was like a fountain, pouring on his face. Ah! A series of screams rang out. Although the big men had seen blood, they had never encountered such a brutal scene. The brothers they met every day had their heads pulled out in front of them. What the hell? Chang Zheng pulled out his gun and shouted angrily, "Two people in a group, back to back, be careful, shoot anyone you see." What the hell? When the rest of the people heard Chang Zheng's words, they felt like they had found their backbone, and immediately pulled out their guns and stood back to back. They carefully looked around the warehouse, but found that the place they had been familiar with for a long time now revealed a kind of horror. "Damn it, come out if you have the guts." Chang Zheng glanced around and suddenly shouted, "You only know how to play dirty? Don't you want to teach us a lesson? Then get out and fight me openly." After Chang Zheng finished speaking, the surroundings were still quiet, and only their heavy breathing could be heard. "Boss, this is too weird, how about we run away?" a subordinate suddenly whispered. "Hum off." Chang Zheng spat at him and suddenly pointed at the gate, "Follow me to the gate. There is only one exit here. Let's block the gate. I don't believe he won't come out." The whole factory is now divided into three groups. Li Anping and Chang Zheng are staying in the warehouse. More than a dozen people who were knocked down by Li Anping were helped out and taken care of. There is also the man in the iron cage. Hearing Chang Zheng's order, everyone immediately walked towards the gate. They walked slowly, back to back, holding their pistols and aiming around, as if Li Anping would rush out from any corner in the next second. "What on earth is that? He's so fast." "How do I know?" Chang Zheng looked ugly and cursed, "I don't care what he is. When I catch him, he's dead." Before he finished speaking, a black shadow suddenly fell from above their heads and instantly threw a big man to the ground. "Don't shoot, save me, the big man screamed and cried. While the others were hesitating, Chang Zheng had already raised his gun and shot. He had obviously practiced shooting seriously, and his posture was much more professional than the amateur movements of the people around him. At the same time, he loosened his hands and let go of the two wolfhounds. But he shot quickly, and Li Anping's movements were even faster. With two shots, only 2 bullet holes were left on the ground. Li Anping had dragged the big man into the shadows. The two wolfhounds followed him with a roar and also rushed into the shadows. At this time, the big men reacted and all shot at the place where Li Anping disappeared. Violent gunshots continued to ring out. They seemed to be venting their inner fears and kept shooting into the shadows. But their random shooting could not hit Li Anping at all. Only the screams of the previous big man came from the shadows. "No, no, please let me go. Please. Please let me go. Ah! My hand. My hand." A scream cut through the night sky, followed by the whimpering of two wolfhounds, and everything returned to calm again. When Chang Zheng and his men arrived, there was only the almost torn body of the big man on the ground, and two wolfhounds lying stiffly on the ground. No one could imagine how cruelly the big man in the shadow was treated, but it was even more terrifying. The darkness around him was so creepy at this moment, as if it would open its mouth and swallow people at any time. Several big men saw the body and couldn't help but vomiting. "I can't stand it anymore, I want to get out." One person swallowed his saliva, suddenly ignored the others, and rushed towards the door shouting, "Ah!" But just after rushing out a few steps, a steel pipe passed through and pierced the man's back, piercing his chest. The screaming stopped abruptly, and the man slowly fell down, spitting blood foam from his mouth. He turned his head and stared at everyone, as if he wanted to say something, but he was blocked in his chest and couldn't say it. Finally, his head tilted and he died. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" A big man raised his pistol like crazy and shot continuously around. "I see you, get out of here." Unfortunately, the only answer he got was a strange sound, and another steel pipe flew out, so fast that it formed a black line. He only felt a puff, as if something had inserted into his flesh. He turned his head and looked around, but didn't find that he was injured, and he laughed out loud. But halfway through his laughter, he found that everyone, including Chang Zheng, looked at him with strange faces, as if they had seen a ghost. From the eyes of the people around him, they saw that the whole steel pipe penetrated the big man's brain, and a few seconds later, he fell down with a scream. Just like a signal, Li Anping seemed to have found a new toy. When the big man fell down, Li Anping threw out steel pipes one after another and shot them at the crowd. The bodies fell like dominoes. Life seemed so fragile at this moment. When the blood splashed, the big men could no longer care much. Even if Chang Zheng continued to intimidate and shout, he could no longer stop them. They rushed out of the door with hideous faces and red eyes. The scene was completely out of control, and Li Anping rushed out of the shadows again. He crawled on all fours and crawled on the ground like a snake towards the big men. He was very fast and his body kept twisting. The sporadic shooting could not hit him at all. This time he was not as bloody as before. All the big men he caught up with were killed in one shot and fell to the ground. They were all devoured by their souls. No screams, no blood, all the rest died silently. When Li Anping stopped, only Chang Zheng was still standing. He pointed his gun at Li Anping who had stopped, but his hands couldn't help shaking. "If you have the guts, kill me." Li Anping just glanced at him coldly. "I wanted to say something to you." "I..." Chang Zheng roared at Li Anping. Ignoring the other party's roar, Li Anping rushed towards Chang Zheng and broke his neck before the other party fired. Looking around, Li Anping waved his hand, and Chang Zheng's body flew out, smashed a wooden box, and finally got stuck in a pile of debris. Later, I felt that there was nothing to say to a scum like you. I'd better go find Huo Qing myself. Next, Li Anping walked out of the warehouse and killed the remaining thugs one by one. He also collected some cash for backup. A gang fight just happened in the abandoned factory on Da Chang Road. Picked up a mobile phone from a corpse, Li Anping called the police, said only one sentence, and hung up the phone. He looked at his hands and was silent. "Do you regret it?" "How is that possible?" Li Anping raised his head and walked out of the factory. "I thought that after killing these people, I would feel guilty, disgusted, and angry, but to be honest, I didn't feel anything when I broke their necks and smashed their skulls with my hands. Just now I felt like I killed a chicken. It seemed that he was shocked by Li Anping's attitude. After a long time, he sighed, because you are a born devil. What should I call you? You can call me Hey. Hey, I should thank you. Li Anping stopped in front of the factory gate and said, if it weren't for you, I would never have the power to do what I did today. I have understood that those scums, since they don't stick to principles and don't treat themselves as human beings, then there is no need for me to treat them as human beings. You are wrong, I am not a devil, I represent justice. Oh. I have decided that I will use the power you gave me to fight against evil from now on. I will only eat the souls of evil people. I will become stronger and stronger and will destroy all villains. Li Anping clenched his fists, his tone full of determination. Punish the evil and reward the good. I will become a hero for all mankind. After saying that, he punched the big iron door fiercely, and the whole iron door was smashed open and fell to the ground. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 12. Royal Hotel, VIP Room. There were only two people, Su Lishuan and Brother Huo, on the huge round table. The dining table was filled with all kinds of delicacies and fine wines. As the most luxurious hotel in Zhongdu, it has always been a gathering place for the upper class in Zhongdu. All kinds of tricks that ordinary people would never think of are performed here every day. The amount that ordinary rich people spend in a day here is enough to make ordinary people feel desperate. It is said that the wine and meat of the wealthy family are stinky, and the bones are frozen to death on the road. It is nothing more than that. Huo Qing, the mayor, is very dissatisfied with what you have done. Su Lishuan exhaled a puff of smoke, looked at Brother Huo condescendingly and said, you usually just let it go, but now you don't even care about the second son's matter. Dare you take care of it? Who gave you the courage to do so? Huo Qing, also known as Brother Huo, frowned at this time, with a dangerous light flashing in his eyes, but after hearing Su Lishuan's words, he did nothing after all. The mayor of Zhongdu City, Shang Angguo, stood behind Su Lishuan. That was a power he could never provoke. So Huo Qing just smiled and said, haha, Mr. Su, I misunderstood. How dare I interfere with the second master's affairs? After saying that, Huo Qing toasted Su Lishuan a glass of wine and said, I was looking at Mayor Shang's calendar. Wanji, you don't have time to care about such trivial matters, so you want to worry about the mayor. Su Lishuan snorted coldly, you just did it, but the people you sent were killed instead. Do you know that this makes us very passive? Huo Qing patted his chest and said, Mr. Su, I was careless this time. I have sent people to investigate, and I promise to bring Li Anping to you within 3 days. Why do I want that trash? Su Lishuan patted the table and said, Li Anping is just a pawn, he has a useless purpose. Someone must be behind this time and wants to use Li Anping to attack Mayor Shang. Mr. Su is right. Huo Qing nodded. So our key now is to catch those who are hiding behind the scenes. We cannot let the small group of illegal elements retaliate against Mayor Shang. It affects the unity of the people and social stability. Su Lishuan was also a civil servant. The clichés are quite smooth. Then he said calmly, but what you just said is correct. You still have to investigate from Li Anping. You just said 3 days, okay, I'll give you a week. If you can't find out, don't go there. Stayed in China. Mr. Su, don't worry. Within a week, no matter whether he is a dragon or a tiger, if he dares to go against the mayor in Zhongdu, he will be dead. Huo Qing toasted Su Lishuan another glass of wine. Speaking of which, it's still Mr. Su, it's so far-reaching that you can be Mayor Shang's right-hand man, and your words are so sharp. I heard that you were also responsible for Mr. Shang's case some time ago. You're such a capable person. Su Lishuan smiled and said lightly, it's just some small tricks. Next, Huo Qing praised him again, which made Su Lishuan, an old man in the world, feel a little elated. After 3 drinks, when it was almost time to finish, Huo Qing stuffed a thick red envelope into Su Lishuan's arms. Su Lishuan nodded with satisfaction, then calmly accepted Huo Qing's arrangement and asked 2 of Dihao's red card girls to fly together. After he followed the mayor, he resigned from his official position to facilitate his work, and now he had no scruples in enjoying himself. After Su Lishuan left, Huo Qing sat down, lit a cigarette, exhaled, and said to the empty hall, "How was it?" Behind him, in the originally empty place, a young man with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes slowly appeared. This man seemed to have been standing here for a long time. He only showed his figure after hearing Huo Qing's words. He pulled out a chair, sat on it, picked up the wine bottle on the dining table and drank. "This Su Lishuan is just a scumbag." "Brother, why do you need to look at his face?" the young man said with an unhappy look. "I'm not looking at his face, I'm looking at Shang Angguo's face," Huo Qing sneered. "This Su Lishuan has been handling some illegal things for Shang Angguo for many years, and he can be called Shang Angguo's spokesperson in the underground world of Zhongdu. As long as we can establish a relationship with him, our status in Zhongdu will be safe." Seeing that the young man still looked unhappy, Huo Qing didn't take it seriously and continued, "Even if Shang Angguo didn't mean it, I will definitely get to the bottom of what happened to Alang and Laonyo. Brother, it's related. If you have the ability, it's up to you to check it out. With your ability, you can do this with half the effort." "Are you sure the opponent is also an esper?" Seeing his brother's conclusive tone, Huo Fei asked curiously. "Although Alung's ability is good, if the opponent has more guns, he may not be able to kill him. As for Laonyo, although he has rich experience, but after all, we are just ordinary people. It is normal for our physical strength to decline as we get older." "You wouldn't say that if you saw their 2 bodies," Huo Qing said, taking out 2 photos from his arms and placing them in front of Huo Fei. Even with Huo Fei's many years of fighting experience, he couldn't help but frown when he saw these 2 photos. "Are these the bodies of Alang and Laonyo? They look like they are powerful ability users." "It's hard to say. There are many different abilities. It's useless to just look at the results. It's up to you to investigate the details." Huo Fei suddenly said, "The 2 of them went to kill Li Anping, but both of them died, and Li Anping disappeared. Do you think it is possible that Li Anping awakened his ability, killed the 2 people and escaped? How is that possible?" "Stop thinking about it," Huo Qing said with a smile. "Li Anping is an ordinary person and has no fighting experience at all. Moreover, his body is disabled. Even if he awakens his abilities, how can he defeat Laonyo? The 2 of them have experienced hundreds of battles. You are also an experienced master, and you should understand that the superiority of ability is never as reliable as the power a person possesses. Unless that Li Anping got lucky and awakened some incredible superpower." At this point, he himself shook his head in disbelief. At this moment, Huo Qing's cell phone rang, and there was an anxious voice coming from it. After a few words, his expression completely changed. Huo Fei asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" "Chang Zheng is dead." Huo Qing slowly closed the phone, his face becoming extremely gloomy. "Someone called the police. After the police entered his factory, they found more than 30 corpses, including Chang Zheng. All but 1 of the hostages are dead." Huo Qing held the phone and made an overwhelmed squeaking sound. He said in a cold voice, "I just asked him to investigate Li Anping's affairs, but he was all over it at night. It is very likely that the person who saved Li Anping took action. Brother, you can check it from this clue now." "Okay," Huo Fei agreed. "I haven't worked for several months. If I don't do something, I will get rusty." Watching Huo Fei slowly disappear into the air, Huo Qing said harshly, "No matter who they are, anyone who dares to kill me will naturally have to pay the price, but it doesn't matter if others are killed. Li Anping and the person in charge, you have to bring it, it can be used to sell Shang Zhenbang and his father a favor. Li Anping hid in the corner opposite the factory building. When he saw the police car arriving, he left quietly. He walked in the shadows, feeling the boiling power in his body slowly calm down, and said to He in his mind, "Hey, tell me about your abilities." After a moment of silence, He laughed softly, "After being possessed by me, you can absorb human souls by touching them when killing people, or directly eat their bodies to strengthen your body and spirit. Your muscle endurance, flexibility, agility, and even memory, reaction, etc. will be strengthened. In other words, you can keep getting stronger by eating people. However, judging from the hospital, your ability level is still very low. Ordinary people can directly suck it by contact, but for people with abilities, they have to kill the opponent before eating it." Hearing this time, Li Anping did not show the disgusted look he had in the past, but calmly thought about what He said. Does it have to be a human being? Isn't it okay to eat animals? Ha 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 ha. He Kuang laughed and said, "Try letting tigers eat grass and lions eat vegetables. Human beings are the food we need." "Food," Li Anping said calmly, "so, you are not a human being anymore." "Humans," He disdain said, "my position in this world is much higher than yours, but this is not something you can know now. Li Anping, don't think that you have been reborn after you have an epiphany. Although you have liberated your thoughts, you still have a long way to go before you can turn your thoughts into real power." "Okay, but when I was in the hospital and in the factory, what was that sudden burst of power?" Li Anping did not delve into He's words, but then asked the question he was interested in. "I feel that in that state, I am much stronger than I am now, and my body is getting bigger. And it's not just physical, it's like there's a voice in my head telling me what I should do." He replied, "When eating people, I can choose to use the energy to strengthen the body or store it. When the energy is stored, it can heal the body at critical moments, or it can explode your potential and enhance your physical fitness. So energy storage, the more of them that are able to burst and heal, the harder you are to kill. Just like in the factory just now, you ate a total of 34 people, and I helped you store the souls of 10 people. Even if your head is cut off, it can be cured by pressing it back with your hands. However, as you become stronger and the quality of your body becomes higher and higher, more and more energy is required to heal injuries. There is not enough food for so many people. It's a pity that you gave up so much fresh meat." He's tone was full of regret. "I will not eat human flesh," Li Anping frowned, "and I will only eat the souls of those who deserve it." "So when absorbing souls, how do you choose to strengthen the body or store it?" "You know, they have been in your mind for a long time," He said. "Compared to memories, it's just that you subconsciously chose the way to talk to me to obtain this part of the memory." Li Anping ignored him, just thought about it for a while, and sure enough he understood how to use energy to enhance himself and store energy. "There's something else I'm very concerned about in the streets late at night." Shadows slowly emerged in Li Anping's mind, including Grandma, Anna, Wei Shishi, Shang Zhenbang. The person who was sent to the hospital to kill me that day was also a person with abilities. Are there many people in the world with abilities? I advise you to give up your plans for revenge for the time being and build up your own strength first. The forces you have to fight against are very strong, and not just ordinary people like Chang Zheng. If you want to take revenge, the police and even the army may become your enemies." He saw through Li Anping's thoughts at a glance and persuaded him, "And you are not the only one with abilities in this world. According to my information, there are many powerful people with abilities among you humans. I heard that they divide people with abilities into 10 levels. I don't think you are even at the first level now." He's words were beyond Li Anping's expectations. He never thought that such a terrible fact would be hidden under the seemingly peaceful world. He can kill more than 30 bloody men in the factory by himself, but among the people with abilities, he is actually the bottom one? But it doesn't matter. Seeing Li Anping's shocked look, He laughed, as long as you use my abilities well, keep eating people to strengthen yourself, and accept my training, it won't take long for you to become the strongest person in the world. Training, Li Anping suddenly stopped in the alley, and before he knew it, a pair of greedy eyes had been staring at his face. In the alley, 4 gangsters surrounded Li Anping and looked at him with ill intentions. Hand over your wallet, bank card, and bank card password. Boy, I advise you not to be upset, otherwise you will get a few holes in your body. One of the yellow-haired men took out a butterfly knife and said. When he saw the other party take out the knife, a cold light flashed in Li Anping's eyes. Because after taking out the knife, the meaning of the incident has been completely different. At the same time, Hay's laughter sounded in his mind. Yes, now is the first lesson, kill them. A few seconds later, screams and begging for mercy sounded in the darkness. This night, Zhongdu City was destined to become different. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Go. Chapter 13. Ignoring the 4 gangsters' screams and begging for mercy, Li Anping pinched off their right hands one by one and then knocked them unconscious. You just let them go. He looked at the 4 people who fainted on the ground and said dissatisfied, if you let them go, you will only kill more people. Don't you want to fight against evil? Kill to stop killing is the best way. You are using the crime they have not committed as the basis for punishment. Li Anping walked out of the alley and walked in a direction with fewer people. Along the way, I saw more than a dozen police cars rushing towards the factory with their lights flashing. They are not guilty enough to die, so I will not kill them, Li Anping said to He, but since they showed the knife, if the other person was an ordinary person, he might see blood, so I disabled one of their hands. Are you taking the place of the police in enforcing the law? He laughed, a murderer is taking the place of the police to do their job. Hee, it's so ironic. Li Anping glanced around and found that the police car was no longer in sight, so he sped up and ran. With his current physical fitness, he could maintain the speed of an ordinary person running 100 meters, even if he ran for 10 minutes, there would be no problem. While running, he answered Hay's question, can't you? The law is the closest thing to rules. If everyone could abide by the law, there would not be so many tragedies in the world. Unfortunately, although the law is good, not all those who enforce the law are selfless, so I will now use my own power to enforce the law. Law enforcement. Haha, which police officer would crush a robber's right hand? Hay laughed, what you are doing is not law enforcement, but your own justice. What's the difference? As he spoke, Li Anping had already run a few blocks and his body began to heat up slightly. But he didn't feel tired at all. Instead, he became more energetic, ran faster and faster, and felt a sense of relief all over his body. The potential of this body has become stronger and stronger after absorbing the souls of more than 30 people. Genji, you are just venting your childish emotions. He did not continue to answer Li Anping's question, but changed the subject and said, how about it, the physical enhancement is intuitive in one day. Isn't it great to feel it? Li Anping suddenly accelerated, then jumped up suddenly, as if he had escaped gravity. His whole body took off and floated towards the street lamp 10 meters away. Then he grabbed the pole with both hands and hung on the street lamp. Released his hands, Li Anping jumped down from the 4-meter-high street light. He bent his legs slightly, and with a shock, the buffering force was resolved, and he stood up as if nothing happened. It's really cool. Li Anping looked down at his hands and clenched his fists hard. That's natural. In one day, your strength increases to 2.0, your speed reaches 1.9, and your physical fitness reaches 3.0. If the energy stored in the body is exploded, the 3 major attributes can increase explosively in a short period of time. Almost. It feels great to have achieved something that is impossible for ordinary people to achieve in their lifetime, He Yuyo said. Strength 2.0, speed 1.9? Where did you get this data? Why does it sound like a game? Li Enping smiled after hearing Hei's comment. What kind of game? This is the attribute we use to evaluate the physical compatibility of living creatures. Here, an ordinary person, his strength, speed, and physical fitness are 1 respectively. He said lightly, I have the ability to absorb soul and body. Ability is a master of physical training. Now, with a little energy sweep inside your body, your physical attributes can be easily quantified. Oh? Then can you quantify other people's attributes? After hearing what He said, Li Enping's eyes lit up and he asked with interest. It's possible, but it's best to have physical contact and even observe his body structure and specific movements to make an accurate judgment. Hey, where are you from? You keep saying you are human, you are human. Were you not a human before, but an alien or a demon? Li Enping asked curiously. You are not qualified to know this now, He said disdainfully, since you are not willing to eat people casually, then if you want to have the power of revenge, you need to rely on unremitting training. If your strength and speed exceed 10 or even 20, let alone revenge, it's okay even if you want to destroy the whole country. Hearing what He said, Li Enping stopped and said solemnly, so, please tell me how to train to become stronger? Strong enough that I can take revenge. Zhongdu City, eastern suburbs. Away from the hustle and bustle of the city, the environment here is elegant and the scenery is pleasant. There are small bridges, flowing water, and green shade everywhere. But the luxury cars and villas that can be seen everywhere here indicate that this place is not a paradise for ordinary people. This is the wealthy area of Zhongdu City, with the best environment, best layout, and lowest crime rate in the city. The houses here sell for more than 100,000 yuan per square meter, which shows that the people who can live here are either rich or expensive. And in the northernmost part of this wealthy area, a large manor is approaching. There are 5 steps on the first floor and 10 steps on the first floor. The ancient palaces in movies are just like this. This large estate is called Bihai Arc, and it is a rich area among rich areas. The number of people who can live in it is no longer something that can be measured by more money or less. In a Bentley, Wei Shishi looked at the arc on the blue sea outside the car window and sighed secretly in her heart. Since entering from outside the manor, she has seen at least 3 groups of security guards checking posts. She had heard before that how good the environment of Blue Sea Arc was and how rich the people inside were. There were even rumors that there was a wanted criminal living in Bihai Arc. When the police came in to arrest him, the security guard stopped him from entering. In the end, they called the security director of Bihai Arc to give them some relief before letting them in. Go in. At that time, she thought it was someone else who was having sex, but now she realizes that the world of the rich is really beyond the imagination of ordinary people. What seems to them to be an unreachable barrier may, in the minds of those with power, be just a threshold that can be easily crossed. This is the life I deserve, this is my future, I want to climb up step by step. Thinking of this, Wei Shishi squeezed the thing in her arms tightly. While Wei Shishi was thinking, the car had already driven to a small bungalow, and a kind old man who looked like a housekeeper took him inside. In the study, Shang Angguo pressed the remote control, and the screen on the table showed the surveillance footage of Wei Shishi getting out of the car. She looked sexy and elegant in a black silk skirt and high heels. Su Lishuan on the side smiled and said, Zhenbang has really good taste. This woman is beautiful and has a good figure. I heard she is a top student at Tiancheng University, and she is so sensible. Brother Shang, you are so lucky to have such a good girl daughter-in-law. Shang Angguo smiled faintly, consider this kid's bad luck. Su Lishuan chuckled and said, that's how it is over at Huocheng. I've already followed your instructions. Then I'll leave first and won't disturb you. After a while, Wei Shishi walked into the study and called out crisply, "Hello, uncle." Shang Angguo nodded and looked at Wei Shishi, feeling very satisfied. This woman is outstanding in both figure and appearance. She is extremely charming. What's even more rare is that she is also a master's degree in economics from Tianquan University and gets a scholarship every year. The only fly in the ointment is that her parents are ordinary people with little background. However, with his second son's virtue, it is not easy to find such a wife. Regarding Wei Shishi's other information, Shang Angguo had already sent people to investigate clearly. Since the rape case, Wei Shishi took the initiative to show her kindness several times and behaved and pleasant in every aspect, which greatly satisfied him. Zhenbang is already a grown man, maybe finding a woman to tie him up can help him change his temper, calm down, and achieve some results. Various thoughts ran through Shang Angguo's mind, but his reaction was not dissatisfied at all. At the same time, he and Wei Shishi were doing their best, just like the uncle next door. He also knew that the biggest reason why Wei Shishi was in such good condition and even took a fancy to his son was because of his power. But when he reached his position, he had already seen through the so-called love. He believed that Wei Shishi was very smart. With his strength, Wei Shishi would definitely treat his son well as long as he did not lose power for a day. Shang Angguo said pleasantly, "By the way, where is Zhenbang? Why hasn't he come yet? Didn't he say we would have dinner at home together today?" Wei Shishi's face darkened and he hesitated. "Zhenbang, he went out to play last night, he hasn't come back yet." "This bastard is so outrageous." Shang Angguo picked up the phone and called Shang Zhenbang, but after calling several times in succession, no one answered. He was so angry that he slapped the table again. Wei Shishi advised from the side, "Uncle, don't be angry. Zhenbang may have something going on, and he has the bodyguards you arranged for him. He will be fine. What else can that bastard do? He only knows how to eat, drink and have fun all day long." Shang Angguo cursed and sighed towards Wei Shishi. "Shishi, thank you for your hard work. How can it be so hard to be with the person you like?" At this point, Wei Shishi suddenly paused, with a hint of blush on her face. "Uncle, I went to the gynecological hospital for a checkup yesterday. Here is the test report. They said I was pregnant." Shang Angguo raised his eyebrows, took the test form calmly, and read it carefully. Wei Shishi on the side said shyly, "I just felt nauseous and wanted to vomit recently, so I went to the hospital for a checkup. Unexpectedly, I was pregnant." Shang Angguo scanned the test form and then laughed loudly. Okay, you can take care of the baby with peace of mind. Don't go abroad to Amist with Zhenbang. You can stay in China and take good care of the baby. By the way, are you ready, graduated? The Amistrian Federation is on the opposite side of the sea. The entire country is dominated by white people. Like Daxia, it has been a world power in the past century. Countries on the entire planet that can be compared with it, from the scope of what humans have discovered so far, are only Bactria, Ice Castle, Codex Country, Tyrell, and Dongyang. Wei Shishi replied, "Well, I finished my defense last month, but I haven't contacted my work yet." "Don't worry about work. I'll make arrangements for you later. You can give birth to the child first." With that said, Shang Angguo took out a checkbook from the drawer and opened a check for 500,000 yuan. "Check. If you need anything in the future, just call me. If you're pregnant, don't run around." Wei Shishi nodded obediently and silently took Shang Angguo's check in her hand. When she saw the amount on it, although she felt hot in her heart, she behaved more obediently without losing any composure. She said crisply, "Thank you, uncle." There was a hint of appreciation in Shang Angguo's eyes. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 14. Dark night, rooftop. A figure was doing push-ups with his hands on the ground. 801, 802, 932, 933, 934. Li Enping did 1,000 push ups before he stood up and clapped his hands. It looked like he was only slightly sweaty on his forehead, and he hadn't reached his limit at all. Then he lay on the ground and started doing sit ups. Is this useful? It's just a training method for ordinary people, right? Now I've done all this and I don't feel anything at all. Hee, these are just warm ups, let you get used to your physical fitness first, he said disdainfully, since you don't want to eat people casually. If you want to become stronger, you can only squeeze your potential. In fact, you have eaten the souls of more than 30 people. Although your body has become stronger, a large part of the energy has not been directly absorbed, but scattered in your limbs and bones, and will be slowly absorbed by you later. And your next training is to constantly squeeze your body, accelerate the process of absorbing energy, and improve your strength. And your body accepts the transformation of energy and is more plastic. This most primitive physical exercise will also enhance your physical fitness from the side. However, after these energies are consumed, your exercise effect will be minimal, so in short, if you want to become stronger, eating people is the best way. Li Enping felt that there seemed to be a stream of heat passing through his body. As the exercise time became longer and longer, there seemed to be a stream of energy coming out of his body and replenishing his body. The feeling of watching oneself getting stronger is just like taking drugs, which makes people feel extremely wonderful. After doing 1,000 sit ups, Li Enping began to stand upside down with his hands on the ground and walked around the edge of the roof. This is a 20-story building. The wind is very strong at the edge of the building. Li Enping is walking upside down on the edge of the roof again, feeling as if he will be blown down at any time. Walking upside down for 6 hours like this can enhance your muscle endurance and hone your will. And walking along the edge of the building all the time can overcome your fear. After all, you are just an ordinary person. If you want to learn how to fight, you must first know how to overcome your fear. Li Enping did not reply to Hei's words. The strong wind made him stagger. His attention was already focused on his hands. He felt as if he might be blown down by the wind at any time. The only thing he could do was to hold the ground tightly with both hands and try to keep his balance. Although Hei said that even if he fell down, there would be enough energy to heal, but just thinking about falling from the 20th floor and being smashed into a human meat pie, he was scared. Walking upside down is very tiring, and Li Enping is now highly focused. In this case, his physical strength is lost more quickly. After 5.5 hours, he was already sweating all over, and his hands began to twitch slightly. Every time he moved, he felt a tearing sensation in his arm muscles, and blood kept flowing into his brain, as if it was about to explode. Don't stop. 6 hours is your limit. The closer you are to the limit, the greater the benefit of stimulating your body's potential. Moreover, there is energy in your body. Even if you have sports injuries, you will be treated. You just need to try your best and dig the limit of your potential regardless of everything. Although Li Enping understood this, the so-called limit is the limit. The closer he was to his physiological limit, the more pain Li Enping felt all over his body. The only thing he could do was to grit his teeth and persist. In just half an hour, Li Enping felt like a century at this time. At this time, revenge, or justice, all the reasons for becoming stronger were no longer in his mind. He was close to his physiological limit and had no energy to think about anything else. There was only one thought in his mind, to persist. But in the last 5 minutes, Li Enping suddenly felt a black screen in front of his eyes, his left hand went limp, and he fell from the roof. In mid-air, he was completely exhausted and had completely lost consciousness. He was like a stone, crashing down from the 20-story roof to the ground. If a person loses consciousness, his body will fall to the ground in a few seconds. This time, Li Enping was almost certain to die. With a loud bang, Li Anping had already hit the ground, his entire torso and limbs were twisted beyond recognition. The thighs and spine pierced the muscles, revealing white bones. All the internal organs were shattered, and blood flowed out of the body like a fountain. The whole face was smashed into a mess, and the face was completely disfigured, and it was completely unrecognizable. Fortunately, it was 3 a.m. and there were not many people on the street, otherwise everyone would have known about the collision immediately. His breathing stopped, his heart stopped beating, and Li Anping fell in a pool of blood like a tattered rag doll. Did he die just like that? Will he go to hell with endless resentment and anger? Or will he still stay in this filthy world? Bang. The sound of heartbeats. Bang, bang. Li Anping suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. But the next moment, the pain of hell, like waves, rushed towards him from all parts of his body. He couldn't help but scream. At the same time, his bloody face, as if time was going backwards, was slowly returning to its original appearance. Granulations kept growing, muscles were reshaped, bones were corrected under the twisting of muscles, and broken nerves were connected again. A mere minute later, all of Li Anping's skin injuries had recovered as before. Before he could recover, He said calmly, "Press the bones of your thigh and spine back, and they will return to their original positions. Otherwise, you will be deformed for the rest of your life." Li Anping hesitated for a second, and the next moment, he grabbed his thigh bone and pushed it back violently. This time he screamed in pain again. Then he stood up, roared angrily, and pressed his protruding tailbone back into his body. There was a creaking sound, and the bones gradually returned to their original positions under the action of muscles. Li Anping gasped, and the feeling of death still made him feel scared. 5 minutes later, his body had been repaired, and the injuries that would have caused complete death did not leave the slightest trace on his body. "Have you rested enough?" He sneered. "This time the repair used one person's energy, and there are still 9 people left. Let's continue training." Li Anping said angrily, "I almost died, and you still want me to train? Death? Aren't you still alive and kicking now?" He said lightly, "You are no longer an ordinary human being, you have abilities. You will not suffer the injuries that ordinary people will suffer. You will not suffer the injuries that ordinary people will suffer. Nor will he die. Because you have abilities, you are no longer an ordinary person. So don't be limited by your ordinary thinking. Try to adapt to the world with the thinking of a strong person and the thinking of a capable person. Because if you are an ordinary person, it is absolutely impossible to retaliate against Shang Zhenbang and Shang Angguo." This statement made Li Anping stunned. He knew that he didn't adapt for a moment, so he continued, "And as long as you absorb people's souls, you can heal any of your injuries. It doesn't matter even if you die once or twice. So the training in the future will be far more cruel than that of normal people, because the training methods of ordinary people are no longer applicable to you. If you want to become stronger, you must overcome the fear of death and treat it as simply as eating and drinking. Only in this way can your strength be fully utilized in battle, and your super-fast regeneration ability can be more effective in battle. If you can't accept this kind of superhuman thinking, I advise you to give up revenge and go home and farm as soon as possible." Li Anping did not answer immediately. He silently chewed on what He said, and after a long time he replied, "I understand." Hearing what Li Anping said, a sneer flashed in He's heart. "If you maintain this suicidal training, how many people will you have to eat to repair your body? It really makes me curious." At this moment, several security guards from a distance ran over with flashlights, but when they reached the place, they could only find a pool of blood. Reminiscent of the previous noises and screams, starting from the next day, a haunted rumor spread in the building. On the other side, after the incident, the entire factory was cordoned off. More than a dozen police cars were parked in the factory area. On the other side of the cordon, countless reporters were isolated. The constant flashing lights made the detective handling the case feel even worse. Genjone walked out of the factory with a pale face, took a deep breath, and suppressed the desire to vomit. Song Sishin on the side patted his shoulder and handed him a cigarette. "How are you? Are you okay?" His face was also a little pale. Genjone took a few puffs of cigarette before suppressing his discomfort. "I have never seen such a horrific scene. Who could have done it?" Song Sishin nodded. "The forensic team is still collecting evidence and investigating, but it seems unlikely that it was a gunfight." Genjone said nothing, and the two stood silently on the side of the road, waiting for the professional inspection results. The factory massacre was named the 115 Factory Massacre by the police. The city bureau reacted as quickly as possible and removed the city's elite detectives to form a task force. The mayor personally ordered that with the cooperation of various departments, the case must be solved and the criminals arrested within 5 days. News of the case was completely blocked, all relevant personnel were brought in for interviews, and several reporters who arrived in advance were also ordered to keep silent. Newspapers, TV, the internet, all media are in a state of calm. The 7th floor of the Municipal Criminal Investigation Brigade office building. After the forensic results came out, the task force held a briefing meeting overnight. Through the comparison of hair, footprints, and blood samples, we determined that the murderer in the factory murder case was the same person as the murderer in the hospital murder case and suburban murder case a day ago. The personnel of the forensic team were giving a briefing. On the slide, photos flashed by, and the atmosphere in the entire conference room seemed very depressing. The leader of the task force, Huang Linjun, looked very bad. It was said that he had not slept for more than 48 hours since the murder in the hospital, and his eyes were all red. Genjone even suspected that he might faint at any time and at any time. The murderer was directly brought into the factory by Chang Zheng's men. Then there was a conflict between the two parties. Chang Zheng's men began to attack the murderer. After a struggle, the murderer killed Chang Zheng and his men while suffering gunshot wounds. Die. After saying this, the forensic team members paused and then continued. It is worth mentioning that there was only one murderer from beginning to end, but he killed 32 gangsters equipped with pistols, and stabbed multiple victims to death with his bare hands by throwing steel drills. Combined with his, the hospital crushed the victims' bones with bare hands, and we need to further evaluate his strength. How is the DNA comparison between the murderer and Li Enping? What are the results? Huang Linjun suddenly interrupted him and asked. The relative similarity between the two is less than 10%, and judging from the footprints and the surveillance footage of the hospital corridor, the height and body shape of the two are quite different, which excludes the possibility that they are the same person. What about Li Liping? Has he woken up? Huang Linjun asked again. Chang Zheng and his team did a good job of stopping the bleeding. Li Liping is not in danger of life at all, but he has been too stimulated and has gone crazy. Crazy? We sent experts to test him, and he did not respond to any external stimulation. I understand. Huang Linjun looked at the materials in his hand and raised his head. You are all elites in the Zhongdu police force. I want to hear what you think about this case. There was silence. Genjone also lowered his head and did not speak. What ideas could he have? The murderer's means of committing crimes are extremely cruel, and his ability is far beyond that of ordinary people. The seemingly random crime scene did not leave any useful clues. If Daxia also built a complete DNA database like the Amist Federation across the sea, it would be able to catch the murderer through the blood and hair left by the murderer. The only image of the murderer was left by the surveillance camera in the hospital corridor. However, the surveillance equipment used to deal with inspections and deceive leaders recorded two blurry images to see the murderer's appearance. So now the only thing the police can do is to constantly investigate, visit, list suspects, look for witnesses, and use the most primitive means to find the criminals, like finding a needle in a haystack. This is also the usual method of the Daxia police, and countless criminals have fallen in front of them. But facing this case, Genjone vaguely felt that the previous effective methods might not be so effective. Finally, a criminal policeman broke the silence and said, "The murderer is very skilled. This is a breakthrough point. He may be a retired soldier, an athlete, or a bodyguard. We can start the investigation from this aspect." Another criminal policeman said, "Yes, we can visit all relevant personnel in the city, as well as the train station, airport, and bus. We must pay close attention to the flow of such personnel. Moreover, the victim is Huo Qing's subordinate, so we can also start from the dispute. Why did the murderer go to Changzheng, and why did the two parties have a conflict? I think these are clues we can trace. And Li Anping, he has disappeared with the murderer since the hospital, and in Changzheng's factory, we also found his brother Li Liping. I think this person is a key clue and should be thoroughly investigated. Moreover, this person has not received professional training, he is just an ordinary student, and he is also disabled. He has attracted social attention many times before. His whereabouts should be relatively easy to find. As long as we find him, we may be able to find out who the murderer is." At the conference table, the discussion became more and more heated, but Huang Linjun's brows were always furrowed. Everyone at the meeting was discussing things related to the case, but he was now thinking more about other things. No matter how small the case is, as long as it involves a person with special abilities, it will not be simple. Not to mention this kind of major case that is rare in 10 years. Originally, he was responsible for the hospital murder case alone, but after the 115 case, a special case team was set up. The Zhongdu city government has zero tolerance for such murders. The city director has personally talked to him and ordered him to solve the case within 5 days. But now it seems that there are many clues in the case, but they are all fragmentary and useless clues. Especially the identity of the other party's ability person, which may involve political struggles related to the mayor. Thinking of this gave Huang Linjun a headache. Shang Angguo, the mayor of Zhongdu City, originally came from the public security. Now in the entire Zhongdu City public security system, almost all the key positions are Shang Angguo's people. If it weren't for his identity as a person with special abilities, he would have been out of business long ago. If this case is related to the mayor, then it doesn't matter who the murderer is. Because at their level, the so-called right and wrong are meaningless, just a few people died. For them, the political stance and team standing are more important. If Huang Linjun gets involved, even with his ability, he may be crushed by the political whirlpool if he is not careful. I hope this case has nothing to do with Shang Angguo. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 15. Li Anping didn't know how much trouble he had caused to the Zhongdu police. At this moment, he was walking through the streets of Zhongdu City, jumping from building to room, his movements brisk and agile, like a ghost in the night, and he continued to communicate with He in his mind. The super-fast regeneration of your body is your huge advantage. This advantage is not only reflected in your battles, but also in your training. With it as your backing, you can train unscrupulously and squeeze your own potential. Your body, the speed at which he becomes stronger is far beyond that of ordinary people. Li Anping said, "I understand, you can be as cruel as you want from now on. You can't die anyway, so just train me to death. As long as you can get me revenge, it doesn't matter how many times you die." He smiled and said, "It would be great if you are willing to cooperate. Serious illness requires strong medicine. You have been an ordinary person for more than 20 years, and now you have to fight against countless strong men in the human world. Don't do this kind of life and death. Extreme cultivation is impossible." Having said this, Li Anping suddenly said, "But the reason why you have been training me so hard is to enable me to kill more people to replenish my energy consumption." He just smiled and did not answer. you have made progress in the half-day training. Now your strength is 2.1, speed is 1.9, and physical fitness is 3.1. The effect is still very obvious, you will go to the suburbs next run in a place with few people. After all, it's better not to be seen by others during future training. Li Anping did feel that he was getting stronger, but as his body became stronger and he had almost immortal regeneration ability, he had a question that became more and more serious. At this moment, I finally couldn't help but ask about He. How strong are other ability users? Among humans, am I still not strong enough with my current strength to seek revenge on Shang Zhenbang? He was a little unsure and said, your current strength, according to your human classification, may not even reach the first level. However, the topic changed, and he continued, but with your current skills, I wanted to kill Shang Zhenbang. It is more than enough for an ordinary person, but the last time he killed someone in the hospital, and then he killed Chang Zheng and his gang, he must have alerted the enemy. Since his father is the mayor of Zhongdu, he will naturally arrange for someone to protect him. This person is probably an ability user. It is difficult to say how strong he is, but you are still too young now, and the outcome is unknown. As for Huo Qing, since he is the boss of the Communist Party, he has definitely experienced a lot of battles. The person he sends to kill you is an ability user. Although there may not be a second place, the threat is not small. Some trained elite warriors are no weaker than those with abilities. You are not very safe now. Li Anping nodded, not discouraged at all. He knew from the beginning that revenge was not a simple matter. So he then asked about people with black abilities. At this point, Li Anping suddenly slipped, stepped on a collapsed eaves, and fell from the 5th-floor roof. In mid-air, Li Anping's expression remained unchanged and he tried to adjust his body shape. However, he fell really fast from the height of 5 floors. He could only try his best to maintain a posture with his feet on his head. Then his legs went numb and he stepped heavily on the ground. On the ground. This was not the first time that he encountered an accident in the middle of a run. He had no training and relied solely on his physical fitness to run like parkour on high buildings and streets. It was a miracle that he did not get injured. However, after more injuries, not only He, but also Li Anping himself was used to it. He adjusted slightly for a few seconds. After the injuries to his legs healed, he started running again. Actually speaking, I don't know much about you ability users, but once you have laid the foundation of your physical fitness, we should look for actual combat opportunities to gain more experience in fighting against ability users. He thought for a while and then continued, ability users seem to be divided into 6 major series, namely Ancient Series, Field Series, Mutation Series, Parasitism Series, Bloodline Series, and Theory. Others seem to have some ability sequences and upper and lower series. Rules and so on. I'm afraid you need to collect the information yourself in the future. Li Anping heard He's unclear words and knew that although he was very good at physical cultivation, he knew very little about human beings with abilities. From now on, he has to rely on himself. Moreover, He's origin is kept secret and is really weird and unpredictable. So although Li Anping seems to agree with He's opinion, in fact, he always maintains a defensive mind and seizes every minute and second to become familiar with the power in his body. If I can completely master this power, I can not rely on He, and I can even expel him from my body and completely eliminate him. Thinking of this, the corners of Li Anping's mouth turned up slightly, not only because of the idea itself, but also because He didn't react at all to his idea, which meant that He didn't perceive the idea just now. Li Anping, on the other hand, has learned how to think in his head without communicating with the black man. That is to distinguish between thinking in the mind and communicating with black in the mind. In fact, he has been experimenting in this area since he left Chang Zhen's factory. Until now, I have completely mastered it. The ability to absorb souls not only enhanced Li Anping's physical fitness, but also his brain. It is an evolution of the whole body. On the other side, He didn't know that Li Anping had gone through so many twists and turns in his mind, and then said, human society is a group society, and people with abilities have not escaped this. Especially if you have to deal with a mayor, you have to deal with a force. It is impossible for the opponent to only have one ability user. There will also be cooperation from various talents. The modern military force is also very powerful and cannot be resisted by people with ordinary abilities. So you must be patient. It's okay to fight in a small way, but to deal with them clearly, you must wait until you are fully sure of your own strength. Otherwise, even if you are immortal now, there are still many ways to deal with it, such as fire, acid, electricity, and other attacks. 5 days later, in a forest on the outskirts of Zhongdu, a dark figure was constantly shuttling back and forth at high speed. It was Li Anping. Due to the development of industry and technology, Daxia has always protected the natural environment very well. For example, in Zhongdu, after leaving the edge of the city, you can often see large tracts of undeveloped woods. In the dense forest, no one has pruned it all year round, making it almost difficult to move. The needles scraping against Li Anping's body were as painful as a knife. And in this environment, Li Anping was still running at full speed, as fast as a black shadow, forming a line from front to back. So the needles swept over his body, causing more pain and leaving wounds. Especially when walking at high speed, carrying huge kinetic energy, Li Anping was stabbed into the body by needles and branches countless times. But he just pulled it out casually, almost without stopping. The energy stored in his body is constantly used to treat the injuries on his body surface. Not only that, the dense forest is overgrown with grass and trees, and there are no roads at all. Especially because of the rotten leaves accumulated on the ground for decades, there is always a danger of falling. As long as he accidentally hits a tree trunk at Li Anping's current speed, fractures, ruptured internal organs, massive bleeding, etc. are all possible. He could only keep his balance and try his best to avoid branches, tree trunks, needles, stones and other dangerous obstacles. I don't know how many times, Li Anping had his hands and feet broken, his eyes and blood vessels were pierced. There was even one time when he missed his footing and hit his head on a stone. His entire skull was cracked and his brain almost came out. The clothes on his upper body were already torn. At this moment, he took off the clothes on his upper body, exposing his strong abdomen and chest. Within just a few days after gaining the ability, Li Anping's body now looked brand new. His entire body was made of streamlined muscles, poured on his skeleton like marble. In the dense forest, Li Anping's speed became faster and faster. As time went by, various parts of his body seemed to have eyes. All obstacles were passed by him smoothly. He suffered fewer and fewer injuries. The speed is getting faster and faster. Suddenly, Li Anping let out a long roar, and his eyes suddenly disappeared. He had rushed out of the dense forest, and a plane appeared in front of him. Yes, you can train like this after running for 10 hours. Li Anping's qualifications are better than I thought. He thought of this, but still had a critical tone on his lips. It took 10 hours to adapt to the dense forest environment. Your balance, endurance, reaction, and speed are all too poor. Moreover, you wasted your soul repairing your injuries along the way. Now you only have 3 soul energy left. It won't work if we don't eat some people. Li Anping held his knees with both hands, gasped loudly, and said intermittently, with this level of training, I have to absorb souls every day. He felt his heart pounding, and there was an explosion of pain, as if it would jump out at any time. Even with his current physical strength, this kind of high-intensity training constantly challenges the limits of his physical strength. But in an instant, a burst of energy flowed through, and his heart no longer hurt. Not only the heart, but also other parts of his body, no longer hurt, but became more powerful in death. This is the power of Li Enping's superfast regeneration ability. Any minor damage can be quickly repaired. Even if ordinary people carry out such horrific training and persist in it, they will probably cripple their bodies and leave damage to important organs such as the heart. Hidden wounds. But Li Enping has no such burden at all. He can train as hard as he wants and be as brutal as he wants without considering health and safety. He can always progress at the fastest speed without even needing to rest or eat. As of now, Li Enping has been practicing non-stop for 21 hours. Hey, don't you want to punish evil and promote good? What does it matter if you absorb a few evil people's souls every day? He smiled and said, that's it for today. You go find something to eat now, rest for a while, and then just catch a few bad guys and eat them. Although soul energy can also be used to replenish physical strength and replace food, it is obvious that Li Enping will not be so luxurious every time. Li Enping asked, what is my current physical fitness? He looked at the tattered sneakers under his feet, threw them away, and started running barefoot on the ground. It looks like I won't be able to wear clothes or shoes for training in the future. Strength 2.1, Speed 2.0, Physical Fitness 3.2, but the unabsorbed energy in your body is basically gone now. If you want to maintain this exercise effect, you must eat people every day. After saying this, He smiling at Li Enping's reaction. Li Enping no longer resisted as before. He just frowned and said, it already takes a lot of time to practice every day. Why should I find so many evil people again? Just grab a few people and eat them. After saying this, He was about to get angry when he saw Li Enping, and smiled and said, Zhongdu is such a big city, aren't you afraid that you won't find bad guys? You can go to some underworlds. Find out more about their distribution. Isn't Huo Qing a big boss? You can eat from his subordinates. Li Enping nodded, feeling that what He said made sense, but when he thought about it, he seemed to have an illusion. Wasn't he treating those people as prey, just like a lion hunting in its territory and picking its targets? No, I am doing it for justice and to eliminate evil forces. Shaking his head, he got rid of the illusion of prey. Li Enping took quick steps and ran towards home. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the Top of the Food Chain. Author, Xiong Go. Chapter 16. A few days later, in a bungalow somewhere in the suburbs, Li Enping let go of the man's neck and let him fall to the ground. The man's limbs were twisted unnaturally, and veins on his face bulged. It was obvious that he had suffered inhuman torture before. The whole room was covered with blood. In addition to this man, there was a man and a woman who were torn into pieces and thrown on the ground at random. This was a child trafficking den. After Li Enping got the news from a gangster, he rushed over overnight. When he pushed open the door, he saw a middle-aged man constantly going in and out of a girl who was less than 10 years old. The girl cried and struggled, but another man blocked her mouth with a sock. Li Enping killed the 3 traffickers present in the bloodiest way. Until now, the blood has calmed him down a little. There were 5 children imprisoned next to the room, 6 in total, including the girl he had knocked unconscious. According to the original plan, they would be taken away the next day, either to become child brides in the mountains, or to be adopted as children by some farmers, or to have their organs taken away and sold to rich people. Although the blood calmed him down, the desire for killing in his heart was like a black hole that could never be filled. What is my current physical fitness? He laughed. Strength 2.3, Speed 2.2, and physical fitness has not changed at all, still 3.4. As your body becomes stronger and stronger, the progress is getting slower and slower. After spending so many days training and killing, the effect is not as good as the first few days of using the ability. However, the energy used for treatment is enough for you to revive 15 times or burst 15 times. During this period of time, while practicing, Li Anping also kept wandering around Zhongdu, appearing in the shadows, and killing people everywhere. He also saw all kinds of criminals: theft, rape, murder, corruption, robbery. After actively sinking into the darkness, he saw more crimes during this period than he had seen in the past 20 years combined. It doesn't matter. The thing that is least lacking in this world is scum, Li Anping said bitterly. Then he picked up the phone on the ground and called the police. Turning his head to look at the girl who fainted on the bed, Li Anping frowned again. The police will come soon and should send him and the children next door back to their parents. Thinking of this, Li Anping didn't stay any longer, opened the door and walked out. With a force on his feet, the whole person had already taken off and jumped towards the wall. In the dark night, he was like an elegant night elf, jumping between roofs and buildings. The movements were smooth as if they had been rehearsed countless times. If you continue like this, your progress will be too slow. He couldn't help but complain. Good people, bad people, what's the difference? They are just food to you. You are now like a picky eater, slowing down your growth. Let go of your principles. This is not the first time that He has persuaded Li Anping in the past few days. Only by releasing your desires can you become stronger. The morality you stick to is just an obstacle that restricts your progress. And these days, you have also seen that human sins are everywhere and you can't control them. No, it should be said that what humans call good and evil is just a set of social labels recognized by most people, a set of rules that are beneficial to most people. And your justice? But it's just your behavior to satisfy your personal pursuit. It's just a dream at most. It is precisely because there are loopholes in the rules of society that my power is needed. Do you want me to watch those criminals do whatever they want? If I don't save those kids just now, their lives will be ruined. On that yacht yesterday, a group of girls were all deceived from abroad. If I don't save them, they will sink for life and live a life worse than death. Li Anping stopped at a rooftop, looking at the brightly lit Zhongdu under his feet, and said lightly, "Only absorb the souls of evil people, this is my bottom line. Killing without principles will only bring destruction." Ignoring Hei's chattering, Li Anping pushed hard and disappeared from the rooftop. He now likes jumping between buildings more and more, which makes him feel like a superhero in a comic. After 18 hours, Li Anping finished his practice. He returned home, took a shower, changed his clothes and went out to eat. Li Anping now trains every day, finds bad guys to eat, and inquires about the news of Huoqing and Shang Zhenbang, then eats and rests, and repeats over and over again. Li Anping casually walked into a self-service barbecue restaurant, paid, ordered a bunch of mutton and beef, and started eating. He had just finished practicing for more than 18 hours in a row, and his physical energy was greatly consumed. Now he needed to replenish it. This kind of self-service barbecue restaurant allows you to eat as much as you want. Beef and mutton contain a lot of protein, which is just right for him. In the blink of an eye, Li Anping wolfed down and had eaten more than 30 kilograms of beef and mutton, but there was no sign of stopping. The waiters around him were secretly shocked. Even the boss lady at the cashier looked at him several times while watching TV. Li Anping didn't care about so much. He felt that his stomach was like a bottomless pit. After eating a large bowl of beef, it was digested instantly. The protein was absorbed by the stomach and continuously replenished to the places where he exercised today, and the tendons and meat became stronger and stronger. He said, after your body has been transformed, its digestion capacity has also been greatly enhanced. After every exercise, you need to absorb a lot of nutrients. Ordinary meat products alone are too single in nutrition and are a waste of time to eat. Is there anything more, higher quality food? Hearing what he said, Li Anping thought of a series of food in his mind, but they all require money. Thinking of this, Li Anping ordered 10 more skewers of chicken legs. Chicken is recognized as the best source of protein. This behavior made the boss lady's eyes twitch. The landlady absent-mindedly clicked on the remote control and switched the channels on the TV. The top 10 outstanding young people in Zhongdu City will be awarded awards on Zhongdu TV station on the 30th of this month. The award recipients include Shang Zhenbang, a young entrepreneur who bravely fights gangsters. The landlady looked at him and said, "What a rich and handsome man. He is rich, handsome, and has such a sense of justice. He is truly rich and handsome. If I had been 20 years younger, I would have gone after him." Before he finished speaking, he heard Li Anping slam the table and stand up. Seeing everyone looking at him, Li Anping had a dark face, snorted coldly, and walked away. Only the proprietress was left muttering, "Poor man, you want to return your hatred to the rich." Li Anping walked out of the barbecue restaurant and walked alone on the street, his heart boiling like boiling water. Don't come to this store in the future. Try another one. Be careful of attracting unnecessary attention, he reminded. Don't think about revenge now, be patient. When you become strong enough, like Shang Zhenbang, kill as many little characters as you want, don't delay yourself just for the sake of pleasure. I know. Li Anping clenched his fists and said bitterly, "I'm just a little unwilling." He is obviously the one who did the evil. However, the newspapers casually reported it and the public's perception was reversed. Hearing what the landlady said just now, Li Anping almost wanted to punch the other party to death, but the other party was not a bad person, he was just deceived. This situation where he could kill the opponent at will, but wanted to but shouldn't, made him extremely depressed. At this moment, a gangster with colorful hair that looked like rooster combs bumped into Li Anping's shoulder while walking and was knocked directly to the ground. You don't have eyes when you walk." The gangster immediately got up, pointed at Li Anping's chest and cursed. Next to him, several non-mainstream people dressed in colorful and ragged clothes immediately gathered around him, pointing at Li Anping and shouting, "You are looking for death, you dare to mess with our rainbow gang. Sorry, damn, my clothes are torn." A flash of anger flashed in Li Anping's eyes, and he said coldly, "I'm sorry, I can go." Originally, Li Anping was tall, and was still somewhat intimidating in the eyes of some non-mainstream people, but now that they saw him surrendering and apologizing, the few non-mainstream people instantly became arrogant. "Excuse me. Damn, I bought this dress for 5,000 yuan. Can you just say I'm sorry? That's right. If you don't pay, you won't be able to leave today." Pedestrians on the roadside saw Li Anping being surrounded by a few gangsters, and they all dispersed instantly, while a few others started to watch from a distance. Li Anping sneered in his heart, not knowing whether he was laughing at the indifference of the world or the ignorance of the people in front of him. He nodded obediently and whispered to several young people, "I don't have so much money, why don't you follow me to get it?" The few non-mainstream people were shocked, as if they didn't expect that the man in front of them was so cowardly. He really planned to pay 5,000, and immediately followed Li Anping to withdraw the money. "I wish I had known I was wrong." "Forget it, I'll spare you this time, go get the money." After walking for a few minutes, the few people following Li Anping felt something was wrong. They found that Li Anping only chose some alleys, and they became more and more remote. Looking at each other, the gangster who was hit by Li Anping just now shouted, "Hey, where are you going? I tell you, don't even think about escaping." After saying that, he grabbed Li Anping's shoulder with one hand. Seeing that there was no one around, Li Anping turned his head and glanced at them coldly. He waved his hand lightly and heard a few snapping sounds. Several non-mainstream people were slapped on the ground and could not get up. Li Anping lifted up the rooster head who was knocked to the ground by him with one hand and pushed him against the wall. Where are Huo Qing's men gathered? That little gangster was still a student. He had just watched too many TV movies and imitated some of the Taoist people, so he could not withstand Li Anping's questioning. "I just felt that my neck was being held tightly by the other party, getting tighter and tighter, as if I was suffocating. Hearing Li Anping's question, he immediately replied in a hoarse voice, "Volcano, Volcano Bar, all the gangsters in the city often drink there." Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 17. At the entrance of the hotel, Shang Zhenbang walked into the parking lot with a cigarette in his mouth, and the figures of the young models who had just been on the bed were still in his mind. Behind him, a black man in a black suit stayed close. Shang Zhenbang talked and laughed with him, and within a few steps he got into his Pagani Zonda sports car with him. This supercar has a maximum output of 800 horsepower. The entire vehicle is made of carbon fiber and accelerates from 0 to 100 kilometers in just 3.2 seconds. The price is 20 million, and there are no more than 10 units in the world. The license plate number is even more arrogant, a 00000. It was a gift from Shang Zhenbang when he was 20 years old. No matter who the Zongda traffic police saw the supercar, whether they were speeding or running a red light, they would pretend not to see it. The black man was sitting in the passenger seat. Shang Zhenbang turned on the engine and stepped on the accelerator. The car rushed out and disappeared on the road in the blink of an eye. Along the way, Shang Zhenbang drove so fast that others could not even see the tail lights of the Zonda. Looking at the speed of more than 200 km per hour on the dashboard, the black man couldn't sit still and persuaded Shang Zhenbang, "Shang, we are not in a hurry, there is no need to go so fast." He was sent to protect Shang Zhenbang. "Bang, I don't intend to die in a car accident." Shang Zhenbang only thought that the other party was worried about being stopped by the traffic police, and said proudly, "Haha, Jay, this is Zongdu, Daxia. It doesn't matter how fast I drive. Just watch." After that, he speeded up again, reaching 250 km per hour. However, there were many cars in Zongda district after all. After a while, Shang Zhenbang had to slow down and move forward slowly with the traffic. After seeing this, Jay on the side felt the sweat on his head and felt relieved. At this moment, a motorcycle with police lights flashing caught up and stopped in front of Shang Zhenbang's car. Shang Zhenbang had to stop. The traffic policeman's name is Ruan Hong. Today is his first day on the job and he still doesn't recognize Shang Zhenbang's car. "I saw someone driving at a speed of 250 km per hour before, and I immediately chased him. Please show your driver's license." Shang Zhenbang just said it was okay in front of Jay, but in the blink of an eye he was stopped by the traffic police. He felt that all his face had been lost. He spat a thick mouthful of phlegm on Ruan Hong's police uniform and cursed, "S-brain K, don't you know who I am?" Ruan Hong was also angry when his clothes were spat on, but as a traffic policeman, he couldn't fight back, otherwise he would make a big fuss, so he had to endure his anger and said, "The speed limit is 80, and you drove 250. You know you are speeding. How much is it? I want to take away your driver's license." "Buck your ass." Shang Zhenbang stepped out of the car and slapped Ruan Hong in the face, but he was dodged. "Stop now. If you do, I'm going to sue you for assaulting the police." As he spoke, Shang Zhenbang punched Ruan Hong a few more times. However, his body had been hollowed out by wine and sex all year round. How could he be someone like Ruan Hong? The opponent of the young man who came out of the police academy barely brushed against each other. Shang Zhenbang became more and more angry. He suddenly turned his head and said to the black man Jay in the car, him." Upon hearing this, Ruan Hong looked at the black man in the car and saw him shrugging his shoulders and suddenly laughing, showing his white teeth. Then Ruan Hong suddenly felt a suffocation in his chest and his head felt dizzy. You did, what?" When Shang Zhenbang saw Ruan Hong holding his head and shaking, he laughed loudly, rushed forward and kicked the opponent to the ground with just one kick. Then they used fists and kicks to hit Ruan Hong, who was lying on the ground, without any regard for the identity of the other policeman. "Damn it, take away my driver's license." Police? I've liked beating police since I was a kid. If you make me feel bad, I will beat you even if the King of Heaven comes. Finally, he kicked Ruanhong a few more times. When he saw him lying on the ground with blood on his head, Shang Zhenbang exhaled with satisfaction, got in the car and drove Jay away. He had to go to a drinking party and was too lazy to tangle with this little policeman again. As a result, he got extremely drunk that night and didn't get up until noon the next day in a 5-star luxury hotel. Turning his head to look at the two women who were still sleeping soundly on the bed, Shang Zhenbang couldn't help but go up and touch each other's breasts, causing a burst of moans. Why are you, a freshman, pretending to be innocent like me? Spending tens of thousands of dollars on me is not like crawling into my bed like a bitch. Thinking of this, Shang Zhenbang laughed proudly again. After brushing his teeth and washing his face, Shang Zhenbang picked up his phone and looked at it. He saw more than a dozen missed calls, and he answered Wei Shishi's call first. Shang Zhenbang still liked this woman very much, not to mention that she was pregnant, so he didn't want to make his real wife angry. I just said that I worked overtime yesterday and was busy until very late. Then there were several missed calls, including from his father and uncles from the police station. He went back one by one and realized that the incident on the highway yesterday was actually a big deal. First, the policeman he beat was sent to the hospital and became a vegetative state. The family members insisted that the driver responsible for the accident come out and take responsibility, but they were temporarily persuaded to go back by colleagues from the traffic police brigade. Also, when he beat up the little traffic policeman on the road yesterday, he was filmed by a white-collar couple with their mobile phone and uploaded to the internet. Fortunately, the city's propaganda department also had people from his father, who immediately suppressed the matter. Related posts and comments on the internet were deleted overnight. Shang Zhenbang is very depressed. There was Li Anping before, and now there are a few bastards. How come anyone dares to mess with him, young Master Shang? He is really looking for death. So he called Su Lishuan. Uncle Su, I was bullied, what do you think I should do? When Su Lishuan heard this, he immediately shouted, who is so bold? Say it and uncle will stand up for you. I just drove faster on the road yesterday. A traffic policeman didn't understand and stopped me. I got beaten up. Now he got sick the next day and wanted to blame me. There are also a couple of young white-collar workers. Mom, he took a video of me beating someone and wanted to upload it online. I understand, I'll do it right away. And Uncle Su, don't let my dad know that I've been looking for you. Clear. Then Su Lishuan immediately called the head of the traffic police team. The people in your traffic police team are so shameless, making Mr. Shang look so ugly. The traffic police captain immediately apologized repeatedly and apologized, saying that he would invite Mr. Shang out for dinner and admit his mistake over a drink in front of him. After making the call to the traffic police team, Su Lishuan thought for a moment and remembered that Huo Qing had to express his loyalty a few days ago, so he made another call to Huo Qing. An hour later, Ruanhong was punitively dismissed for participating in a fight. He had to bear all living expenses and medical expenses on his own. The police force was not responsible. Upon hearing the news, Ruanhong's mother, who was in her 60s, fainted on the spot. On the afternoon of the same day, a group of big men in black t-shirts and black trousers broke into a community, smashed the car of a white-collar couple in the community, and poured gasoline in front of the house. The man came out to argue with them but failed, and instead had one of his legs broken. After 110 rushed to the scene, the man was sent to the hospital. After asking about the situation, no one dared to investigate, and there was no more news. Late night, Volcano Bar. Shang Zhenbang held a blonde foreign girl in his arms, followed by the black bodyguard Jay, and walked to the bar arrogantly. Along the way, there were some gangsters everywhere, and Taimei greeted him. There were also several young girls with dyed yellow hair, heavy makeup on their faces, and scantily clad clothes? They came up and hugged Shang Zhenbang and kissed him violently, rubbing their breasts hard against each other's arms. Shang Zhenbang took advantage of the situation and touched the other person's chest, put his hand into his clothes and pinched it, and said with a smile, "Haha, going into battle in a vacuum? I like it." He led a group of women to sit down in a small private room nearby. It was said to be a small private room, but in fact it was separated from the hall by a curtain. You could see the situation outside. Shang Zhenbang turned to the black bodyguard sitting beside him and said, "How's Jay? How does it compare to your overseas nightclubs? This is my old base. Just tell me what you want." "Awesome, Shang, you really enjoy it," Jay said with a smile. But what no one noticed was that even though he was holding a white foreign girl, while he was talking, his eyes were still cold. "That's right, there will be a few friends coming over later. They are all brothers among us who are in love. They have a lot of skills at hand. You have to support me and show your hands to them when the time comes." At the same time, on the rooftop of the volcano bar, a dark shadow jumped up from the building opposite, like a ghost in the night, overlooking the main entrance of the bar, where the drunken men and women were coming in and out. Luxurious cars, famous brands, reveling in luxury, and feasting. Li Anping's eyes flashed with blood red, and he murmured, "Volcano bar. This is his hunting ground today." Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Go. Chapter 18. Li Qian has sassy short hair, wears a small dress, and light makeup on her face, walking between the bars. Her pure temperament, coupled with her hot figure, especially her pair of straight and slender legs, attracted the attention of countless men. But no one noticed that there was a small crack on her handbag deliberately, and a miniature camera was filming the scene in the volcano bar. Success or failure depends on this. If the drug trade here can be photographed, it will definitely become big news. Li Qian is an intern reporter at Zhongdu Metropolis TV station. She is beautiful and very capable. She was the chief editor of the school newspaper's editorial department when she was in college. Later, when she joined the city TV station, she was ready to do something big. But in the end, reality poured cold water on her. Reporters who can get into the city TV station basically have their own way. Li Qian is an outsider. She can usually chat and eat, but the real big news has no chance of her getting involved. What's more, a TV station executive in his 50s asked her to unspoken rules. After she refused, she was completely beaten to the end and basically had to do odd jobs at the TV station. So she roped in a colleague, pretended to be a student, and went deep into the rumored prostitution spot here, and took pictures of the sinful transactions. When it was released, it would be big news immediately, and she would become famous in one fell swoop. Many years later, when Li Qian thinks about her behavior today, she may laugh at her naivete. But at least for now, she's dead serious. However, after walking around for nearly 2 hours, Li Qian found no criminal behavior even though the whole scene was smoky, and she began to feel secretly anxious. At this moment, Li Qian suddenly felt a strong surge of force, and her shoulder was suddenly hit by a man. She staggered and almost fell to the ground. The man is almost 1.9 meters tall and has a strong build, but does not appear obese. There was a cold feeling on his face, as if everyone owed him $1 million. After rubbing her painful shoulder, Li Qian glared at the man, not wanting to get into trouble with the man. When she saw the man saying sorry to her, she walked away. Li Anping found that the girl who was hit didn't bother him, so he turned around and walked away. He looked up and saw that there were 3 blonde girls on the bar, wearing 3-point styles with almost only a few threads left. They stood on the bar and pole danced crazily. They had shaken out their nipple pasties several times, and then stuffed it back again. Deafening heavy metal rock music was constantly heard in the ears, and the audience cheered crazily and drank. Seeing this, Li Anping frowned even more. His eyes wandered around, looking for a target to attack. His purpose in coming to the volcano was to find a few soul-sucking bastards and quietly attack them to replenish his energy. The second is to see if I can get some information. Regarding Huo Qing, there is even news about Shang Zhenbang. But after seeing the debauchery in this kind of place for the first time, the wine pool and meat forest, that is, the barbecue restaurant, his mood became worse. However, he didn't do anything. He didn't intend to expose himself easily until he had the power to resist the government. So he suppressed the fire in his heart and walked alone among the crowds of people. Until a certain moment, it quietly broke out. Shang Zhenbang got up and went to the toilet, but found Li Qian spinning around on the dance floor, which aroused his interest. After whispering a few words to the security guard next to him, he returned to the private room. A few minutes later, a boy was brought into Shang Zhenbang's small private room by two bar security guards. The boy looked sad and handed a cigarette to Shang Zhenbang and said, "Master Shang, I brought my sister here to play, and she is still. Where are the students?" The security guard on the side said, "They are probably students from the nearby sports school. They like to come here to play and don't know the rules." Shang Zhenbang kicked away the student's hand offering the cigarette, slapped his face and laughed. Student, I asked her to come and drink with me, didn't I ask her to sell? What does it matter? Let's talk about it, ha 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 ha." The men and women sitting next to Shang Zhenbang laughed. The man didn't dare to believe it. At this moment, he bent down and almost cried, and said pitifully, "Young Master Shang, I really can't do it, I'm still a student." Unexpectedly, just as he was about to speak, a man next to him picked up a beer bottle and hit him on the forehead with a bang. The man who was hit had blood all over his face, and he curled up on the ground and didn't dare to move. "Damn, Jiji Wei, this student is amazing." Master Shang asked her to have a drink. "Don't be so shameless." Shang Zhenbang smiled proudly, feeling that he now had the tone of a big boss, so he pretended to take a sip of wine, waved his hand to stop the man, and said, "Okay Huabao, the student boy is not sensible, you can kill him. What are you killing for? It's scaring the kids." At this time, the man on the ground was already stunned. He usually prefers to hang out in bars. This time, he was forced to come out by Li Qian to accompany her to the volcano bar and pretend to be a student. To be honest, it was also because he was greedy for Li Qian's beauty. Although he can usually get along well in bars, how can he become hardened when he meets a real gangster in society at this time? What's more, the leopard in front of me is the big brother who watches the scene at the volcano bar. He is notorious for being desperate in fights. I heard that a gang from out of town came to make trouble in the past. He stabbed the person's kidney on the spot and went to the suburbs the next day. Once buried, nothing will happen. Damn it, young Master Shang is so brave, why don't you kneel down? Huabao yelled. The man didn't care about the blood on his head. He got up in a hurry, knelt in front of Shang Zhenbang, lowered his body and said softly, "Young Master Shang, I'm sorry." Huabao looked at Shang Zhenbang's eyes, and then shouted, "Slap yourself, don't stop until Master Shang tells you to stop." On the sofa, Shang Zhenbang took a comfortable sip of wine, put one hand on the breast of the young model next to him, and touched it wantonly. There were continuous slaps in his ears, and he felt the domineering power of standing at the top of society. Enjoying grudges and being proud of the world, at this moment, Shang Zhenbang only felt that this was the life he wanted to live. His father wanted him to engage in politics or run a company all day long, which really annoyed him. After a while, Li Qian was also brought over by the security guards. When she saw her male colleague kneeling on the ground, she looked as if she dared not speak out in anger. But he was quickly dragged over by several big men and pushed into Shang Zhenbang's arms. At this moment, a burst of laughter came. A fat man wearing a floral shirt and a gold chain around his neck walked towards Shang Zhenbang. Behind him were a dozen big men in black pants and black t-shirts. As he walked, the fat man laughed. Said, "Young Master Shang, I haven't seen you for a long time. Didn't I hear that you are going abroad? Why do you have time to come to us?" De Fei. Fatty Fei, Shang Zhenbang said with a smile, "You are late, you will punish yourself with 3 drinks. Watching Fatty finish 3 glasses of wine, Shang Zhenbang laughed and applauded. "Okay, Fatty Fei, thanks to you today, go and give me a break. 2 white-collar workers still want to meddle in my business. Young Master Shang, you're welcome. I heard today that it's young Master Shang's business, so asking me to do it is to give me face." If someone outside called De Fei brother, his legs would have been broken long ago by his men. However, when he heard Shang Zhenbang shouting, the fat man nicknamed Brother De Fei licked his face and laughed, picking up the bottle of wine on the table was drained in one gulp. "Where's sister-in-law? Why didn't you come?" "Shishi is pregnant, and Dad wants us to stay, otherwise I would have flown across the sea and played in Amstrad." De Fei nodded, glanced at the man squatting on the ground, and said with a wide smile, "Young Master Shang, you are in a good mood. You even train the children. The student boy is ignorant, I have to teach him how to behave." Shang Zhenbang picked up the wine glass, pointed at Jay and De Fei, and said, "This is my bodyguard, Jay. He just came from Amist. I treat him as a brother. This fat guy is in charge of everything south of Zhongdu, and he is Brother Huo's right-hand man." Jay looked like a black man, but he spoke Daxia dialect surprisingly smoothly. When he saw De Fei, he didn't even notice him. He said hello, raised his hand and drank a drink. Okay, this black brother is generous enough. At the moment, the 3 of them were talking about each other, complimenting each other, teasing, and making dirty jokes. After a few drinks, they became good brothers who share life and death together. From time to time, he pointed at the man kneeling on the ground and looked at his swollen face, and the men and women laughed wildly. Li Qian in Shang Zhenbang's arms stiffened up. She had been in the ivory tower since she was a child. She had never experienced such a thing. At this moment, she regretted her decision to come to the volcano bar. She was extremely scared. Tears almost flowed out. Shang Zhenbang found it even more interesting. He laughed and put his hand into Li Qian's underwear and started rubbing it. "Don't want. I want it, I want it." Feeling the girl's struggle, Shang Zhenbang became even more excited, moving his hands up and down, causing Li Qian to scream. Finally, probably unable to bear the humiliation, Li Qian slapped Shang Zhenbang in the face, and the surrounding area fell silent instantly. Probably because she was desperate, although there were still tears on Li Qian's face, she struck Shang Zhenbang's face with her hand. But this time, Shang Zhenbang grabbed his wrist and blocked it. Bitch! Shang Zhenbang's face was livid, he grabbed Li Qian's head and knocked it towards the table. Shameless! Shang Zhenbang then slapped Li Qian on the face. Shang Zhenbang looked at the silent expressions of the people around him, and said with a sigh, "Why are you standing there in a daze? Come over here and beat him to death." The security guards at the bar and De Fei looked at each other in shock. They didn't expect to hit the woman, and neither of them stepped forward. At this time, Fatty Fei shouted, "What are you doing standing still? If you don't do what Master Shang ordered, I'm telling you, from now on, Master Shang's words will be mine. This bitch is so shameless, go ahead, fight to death." At this time, several people reluctantly walked out and grabbed Li Qian from the sofa. Regardless of the other party's struggle and crying, they punched her several times. A few minutes later, Li Qian lay motionless on the ground, blood and tears mixed together. The ladies around her felt sad to see her, but no one dared to persuade Shang Zhenbang. "I'm about to die." Seeing Shang Zhenbang was a little boring. The leopards on the side quickly came up. After a few glasses of wine and a few dirty jokes, the atmosphere in the private room became lively again. There was only one man left kneeling on the ground and slapping himself repeatedly. Beside him, a woman was punched and kicked by several big men. She had various scars on her body and was muttering to herself. She looked like she was about to lose it. Consciousness. Shang, Zhen, bang. A low, tearful moan sounded in Li Anping's mouth. His eyes seemed to flash for a moment, and then a trace of red light seemed to emerge. In the direction where Li Anping looked, Shang Zhenbang was lying in a private room with his arms around him. A young man was kneeling in front of him, and a girl was lying at his feet. He was laughing wildly. That smile was like a sharp knife piercing Li Anping's chest. Don't rush to take action. When you grow up, you can retaliate against them as the strongest person. Then there will be no danger in your revenge. Hei's persuasion rang in Li Anping's ears, but the latter didn't seem to hear it. He is laughing, but he is still laughing. Li Anping clenched his fists tightly and began to tremble. He has harmed so many people, why can he still laugh? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xiong Lango. Chapter 19. In the private room, the atmosphere became more and more heated. At some point, the tops of the girls were opened one by one, and the men were allowed to touch them. There was a row of white pills on the table, and people ate them like candy beans. Li Qian lay on the ground, her mind was confused, but there was a hatred that could not be eliminated. She hated her own powerlessness and weakness, but she was afraid of the other party, afraid that Shang Zhenbang would think of her lying on the ground again. Shang Zhenbang had been on TV many times because of the rape case a while ago. Li Qian knew the other party's identity and background, which made her even more afraid. The slap just now had squandered all her courage. She was so scared that she didn't dare to move at all, and lay on the ground as if pretending to be dead. What no one noticed was that when Li Qian's hatred continued to intensify, within 4 or 5 meters around her, bills, banknotes, menus, and some paper items all twisted strangely. Haha, that's enough, don't kill her, bring that woman here, she's the first blood today, Shang Zhenbang's voice sounded, and to Li Qian, it was like the devil's low moan. But before anyone could make any move, Li Qian saw something black flying over. Suddenly, a huge roar sounded, and Jay was the first to stand up in the private room, but before he could figure out what was going on, he saw a sofa more than 3 meters long flying towards them. Fuck. He was not a power type ability user. Although the surface of the sofa was soft, it was not something he could catch when it flew over so directly. He immediately threw Shang Zhenbang to the ground and blocked the impact of the sofa. You scolded the neighbor next door, and you dare to make trouble here? Are you tired of living? In the chaos, Huabao was not hit by the sofa. He looked in the direction where the sofa was thrown, and saw a man coming over. He called a few big men to rush up together, but the next moment, he flew out. Screaming, whistling, all kinds of sounds came to his ears. Before he understood what was happening, he saw the big men who rushed up flew out one after another. Finally, he stopped, his head resting on the wall, blood gushing out, and he slowly slid to the ground, his limbs twitching slightly. No one could stop him. No one would have expected that when the ruthless man Huabao rushed towards a person with a bunch of thugs, the whole scene would look like a group of kindergarten students rushing towards a high school student. Whether it was strength or speed, it was a world of difference. The result was that the high school students broke and tore the children casually, and then threw them on the ground. Ordinary people screamed and ran away, and some security guards also hesitated and retreated. Li Qian lay on the ground, looking at the tall figure in the field, her eyes getting brighter and brighter. Huabao. "Do Fei, take Shang Xiao away. I'll stop him. Get a gun. Monster." The bar was in chaos. Shang Zhenbang was led by Do Fei to flee out the door, and until now he has not reacted to what happened. Then, after a scream, an angry roar sounded from behind him. "Shang, Zhen, Bang," the tone was full of endless resentment. Shang Zhenbang couldn't help but turn his head, and he saw a black thing, with a whistling sound, smashing towards him. "Is that Jay's arm?" The arm is irregular in shape. After all, it is not easy to throw accurately, and it was crooked and hit the back of Dafei next to Shang Zhenbang. A series of fractures sounded, and he had fallen to the ground, vomiting blood. Shang Xiao, save me." Blood splashed on Shang Zhenbang's face. "Go! Go!" Jay, who had one arm torn off, hugged Li Anping from behind and shouted at Shang Zhenbang. Shang Zhenbang woke up from a dream and ran out desperately. "Roar!" Li Anping roared, and his soul energy kept gushing out. He had already used the explosive form before he took action. His body swelled, almost more than 2 meters. The lower the physical fitness, the more obvious the effect of the burst state. At this time, his strength and speed reached 3.7 and 3.0 respectively. His muscles swelled and he looked like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. He reached behind his back with one hand and wanted to drag Jay out, but the next moment, a feeling of weakness suddenly came over him. He felt a little dizzy, couldn't breathe through his mouth and nose, and couldn't use any strength in his body. "It's oxygen, the oxygen is gone. Someone has taken away the oxygen, he is a capable person," He shouted. Before Li Anping understood what was going on, Jay had already taken out a pistol from his arms, pointed it at Li Anping's waist, and kept shooting. Bang! 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 The gunshots rang out, and there was another series of screams, and everyone ran faster. After firing 15 consecutive bullets, Jay felt that Li Anping's body softened, and he threw him to the ground. He took out the magazine, changed the bullets, and shot at the corpse again, until the magazine was empty. Jay's face was grim, and he raised his foot and kept stomping on the bleeding part of the corpse. "Trash, you trash, get up, trash." The more he kicked, the angrier he felt. The person with the ability under his feet was obviously a mutant. His physical speed and strength were unexpectedly strong. The most important thing was that he was too close to him, leaving him unprepared, and ended up tearing off one of his arms. If not for the last moment, when the opponent thought he had defeated him and was attracted by Shang Zhenbang, he would not have had the chance to activate his ability and kill the opponent. But, one arm, my left hand is gone. Thinking of this, Jay felt angry again, and then felt dizzy. Only then did he remember that his arm had been torn off and he was bleeding profusely. He needed to be bandaged quickly, otherwise it would be useless no matter how strong his physique was. So he ignored the body on the ground and turned around and walked out the door. But just after taking a few steps, a huge force came and hit his neck, almost breaking his neck and causing him to faint. I saw Li Anping standing behind him, the wounds on his body healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The bullets were squeezed by the muscles, bounced out of the wounds, and fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. Just when Li Anping was about to take action and kill Jay, Hei's voice rang out, "Don't kill him, take him away with you later, it will be useful." Li Anping didn't ask why. He took a deep look at Jay, who was lying on the ground, and chased out the door. Now all he can think about is killing Shang Zhenbang. But he walked to the door and pushed it hard, only to find that the door was locked. This door is made of solid wood and is located at the exit of the bar and dance hall. Shang Zhenbang escaped from here just now. He's coming, quickly block the door. Move everything here. Li Anping frowned, took a deep breath, and planned to explode again. He had just been killed, and the energy burst state had expired. Now he was about to instigate another energy burst. Because the door in front of him was made of solid wood and was about 5 or 6 centimeters thick, he couldn't break it open without using the explosive state. I've just been hit by so many bullets, and I don't have much stored energy left. Are you sure you want to use it for explosions? If you get fatally injured again, you won't be able to get treatment. Having hit so many shots in a row just now, the healing almost consumed all the stored energy. But after hearing Hei's words, Li Anping was unmoved. He shouted loudly, and his whole body swelled up as if inflated. The muscles in his arms, thighs, and torso exploded, and his entire body shape immediately changed from 1.9 meters to 2 meters. Drink. Feeling the endless power in his body, Li Anping summoned all his strength and punched the door. After a huge roar, the entire door was shaken open, and there was a sound of people tumbling on their backs from behind the door. Li Anping pushed the broken door open, walked in, and came to the street. Seeing him coming out of the door, the people who were blocking the door immediately fled in fear. Li Anping ignored them and searched for Shang Zhenbang with his eyes. But the next moment, a burst of gunfire rang out, and Li Anping was forced back inside the door. Fortunately, his speed and reaction are amazing now, otherwise he would have been beaten into a hornet's nest just now. Damn it, didn't I tell you to wait and shoot as soon as he comes out? You're waiting for nothing. But Master Shang, there were brothers at the gate just now. Trash, groups of people are trash. Shang Zhenbang cursed loudly, but no one dared to talk back. Although they were all Huo Qing's subordinates, Hua Bao and De Fei were both dead at the moment. Facing Shang Zhenbang, no one dared to disobey. Seeing the cowering look of the group of people below, Shang Zhenbang became furious. He casually snatched a person's pistol and fired a few shots at the empty door. Then he smiled arrogantly and said, "Idiot, you are not. Do you want to kill me? Come on, I'm right outside, come here and kill me." Behind the gate, Hei felt that Li Anping's muscles were tense, and immediately advised, "Calm down, don't be impulsive. You have no soul energy now. If you die, you will really die. How could I not go out? How could I not go out? He killed my whole family and ruined my life. How could I not go out?" Li Anping punched the wall hard, making a hole. All the cement and bricks inside leaked out. "Tell me, why can't I get out? That's why you have to be patient. If you really want to take revenge, don't rush out and die. You already have a way to become infinitely stronger. As long as you can endure your anger for a while, there will be many opportunities for revenge in the future." Li Anping gasped for air, feeling as if there was a fire burning in his chest. Just as the two hesitated, the sound of a police car rang in the distance. "The police car is here. In the current situation, we will be finished if you are surrounded. Hurry up and leave." Damn it, Li Anping couldn't help but curse. At this time, Han Zhenbang's voice sounded outside the door again. "Ha ha ha ha, silly pen, the police are here, you are dead, and you still want to kill me? When I catch you and know who you are, I will kill your whole family. I want your whole family to die. Bastard, I will accept all the women in your family when the time comes." Shang Zhenbang's continuous insults sounded from outside the door. Li Anping's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. He exhaled loudly and squeezed his fists until they almost bled. At this moment, his ears moved, and Shang Zhenbang's voice became clearer in his ears. He could almost feel Shang Zhenbang's position, and then he looked at the hole he had punched in the wall earlier. "Thank you." Then he punched again, this time with all his strength, shattering a large piece of the wall. Li Anping picked up half a brick from inside. Outside the door, more than a dozen police cars stopped, and the police rushed out of the cars and immediately surrounded the entire volcano bar. Shang Zhenbang stood in front of the crowd and shouted with a ferocious expression, "Hurry, hurry, a bunch of trash, all rush in, remember to shoot at the legs, I want to catch him alive. I want to kill him myself. But the next moment, a hand stretched out from the edge of the door, holding half a brick in the hand. Everyone looked at the hand and was stunned. A black shadow flashed by, and Shang Zhenbang's voice stopped abruptly. Everyone turned around and saw that the half brick hit Shang Zhenbang's face, almost half of it sank in. Shang Zhenbang's face was deformed by the collision, one eyeball fell out, and the other was squeezed into the brain by the brick, messing up his brain. After a suffocating sound, fierce gunshots sounded at the door of the volcano bar and shot towards the door. The continuous gunshots appeared on the street, which seemed to symbolize a war that had begun in Zhongdu. Man at the top of the food chain. Author, Xionglang Guo. Chapter 20. The entire volcano bar was now controlled by a group of armed police wearing body armor and helmets. The task force, led by Huang Linjun, arrived as soon as possible. But even though he had seen Li Anping's crime scene not long ago, Geng Zhong still couldn't help but feel a spasm in his stomach when he saw the tragic sight of Shang Zhenbang's body lying on the ground. Huang Linjun, who was standing by, patted him on the shoulder and said, "Okay, stop reading. How are the statistics?" "There are a total of 19 dead people, including Hua Bao, the eldest brother of Huo Qingbar, De Fei, Huo Qing's right-hand man, and Shang Zhenbang." The suspect had already escaped from the rooftop before the SWAT team arrived. Huang Linjun interrupted him, holding a cigarette in his mouth and said, "Okay, do you think he did it?" He, of course, refers to the criminal who recently committed a series of murders in Zhongdu. Geng Zhong hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Judging from the crime scene, it was his style, but this time everyone died of trauma. No one was brain dead. And we have many witnesses. It won't be long. We can definitely catch him." After being so busy for more than half an hour, suddenly the lights in the distance brightened, and a black car with police lights drove in. A bald, short, fat man got out of the car. His face was ashen, and he didn't even look at Huang Linjun. The other team members went straight to Shang Zhenbang's body. This person is none other than Wanan, the top leader of the Zhongdu City Public Security Bureau. Huang Linjun looked at Geng Zhong and said, "The master's son was beaten to death, and the old dog is anxious." Geng Zhong glanced at Huang Linjun in surprise. Although he was temporarily transferred to the task force and became Huang Linjun's subordinate, they were not familiar enough to speak ill of their boss together. "Where is your master?" Huang Linjun didn't take it seriously and asked. "Sick leave." Haha. Huang Linjun smiled disdainfully and blew out a puff of smoke. "Your master is a veteran, he saw the opportunity quite early. This task force is a fire pit. Now that Shang Zhenbang is dead, it's better to catch him." "Can't catch anyone, hum." Geng Zhong couldn't help but said, "With so many of us, can't we catch him alone? He is not a god. Even if he is a god, in modern society, once all our departments coordinate and mobilize the power of the whole society, there is no one who cannot be caught." Huang Linjun smiled and said nothing. Wanan, who was on the side, summoned everyone and started an on-site mobilization meeting. With a red face, he made harsh words about solving the case within 24 hours and searching for criminals all night. "We must not let such crazy criminals go unpunished. We must do it for the people. Ensure the safety of your property." Wanan was calm on the surface, but inside he was in a mess and hated the criminal. Shang Angguo was his immediate boss, and he was promoted by Shang Angguo. Now that the youngest son he loved most was dead, he couldn't imagine how terrifying Shang Angguo's anger would be. Moreover, he was originally the director of Zhongdu City Public Security Bureau. The same criminal was responsible for the recent series of vicious incidents in Zhongdu City. In the middle of the meeting, Wanan was called out by a phone call. An angry roar came from the phone, which made Wanan sweat all over his face. He held the phone, nodded and bowed, and looked at the other end of the phone. Like a pug wagging its tail and begging for mercy. After finally answering the phone, Wanan wiped the sweat from his forehead and told Huang Linjun, such a serious and vicious case must not be delayed any longer. If it continues, every minute and second will be irresponsible to the people. Huang Linjun, I give you 24 hours, no, counting the last time, I will give you 3 more days. You must catch the criminal. If you can't, just wait to go home and farm. After saying this, Wanan got on the car and left in a hurry. The members of the task force were left sighing. 2 hours later, Ark on the Blue Sea, Shanghai. The entire big house was like the calm before a storm, making people want to die. In the study room, Shang Angguo put down the phone, rubbed his forehead with his hand, and looked at Wanan in front of him. He saw Wanan was restless before he said, "Olden, you have been with me for 10 years. As soon as these words came out, Wanan was shocked. This was the standard dialogue before the lackey cooked in TV and movies, so it wasn't. He was so frightened that he almost knelt down and gritted his teeth and said, "Brother Shang, we will solve the case within 3 days. I have watched Zhenbang grow up. If something happens to him, I will be more worried than if my own son died. I feel sorry for you. Within 3 days, I will definitely bring that 1,000 swordsmen to you." "I don't know what kind of thing you are," Shang Angguo snorted and cursed directly. "Wanan has almost no professional ability. His only advantage is that he is very obedient, and he is very good at arranging police personnel." However, Xia Angguo would never have scolded him like this in ordinary life, but when he lost his son in old age and gave birth to a black-haired man, his heart was already in chaos. The murderer is not an ordinary person. Ordinary policemen cannot handle it. He sighed and said, "What I want you to do is not to report any cases during this period. Generally, the city has to report such major and important cases. Report directly to Tianjing." But, Wanan hesitated. "If you conceal it like this and don't report it, once you are found out, nothing will happen to Shang Angguo, but Wanan will be left with nothing to lose." After reporting it, Tianjing found out in less than half a day. "When they send people over, the murderer will no longer be under my control. Don't worry, I will also send people to block other channels." Tianjing sighed, "No one will trouble you." Shang Angguo's face was as cold as ice. "I want to deal with that bastard myself." Wanan hurriedly agreed and then opened the door to leave. But as soon as he opened the door, 3 men filed in from outside. Among the 3 men, 2 looked like foreigners, and only one was of yellow race. They were all wearing casual clothes. They were young and looked ordinary. But for some reason, when Wanan saw them, he felt that there was something wrong. A chill rose from the bottom of my heart, as if I had seen a pack of wild wolves. "Oh, you're here. Sit down first." The 3 of them listened to Shang Zhenbang's instructions and sat casually on the sofa. Wanan had never seen these people in the Shang family, and doubts arose in his heart. As he stepped back, he couldn't help but look at them a few more times. At this moment, the only yellow man among the 3 suddenly raised his head and looked towards him. Cruel and fierce, just one look at Wanan made him tremble all over, and the sweat on his back made his shirt wet. "What are you doing standing here? Leave quickly!" At this moment, Shang Angguo's shout brought Wanan back to his senses, and the feeling he just felt disappeared immediately. He nodded hurriedly and walked out the door. Before leaving, he saw the yellow man smiling maliciously at him, which gave him goosebumps and made him run faster. "Hey, this fat guy is so funny," the yellow young man said with a smile in half-baked Daxia dialect. "I called you here, not for fun," Shang Angguo said. "I don't care what means or methods you use, help me catch that bastard immediately. The police station was busy all night today. Shang Zhenbang died, and almost all the police in the city were mobilized to find the murderer. Li Qian was not released until 7 o'clock in the morning. Throughout the night, No one took her to examine her injuries, nor did she receive treatment, let alone send her to the hospital. When she left the police station, she was still limping. A total of 4 or 5 groups of police officers interrogated her that night. No one asked about the fact that she was beaten, but only asked for details about the killer. All kinds of red faces, white faces, threats, and promises were made, but after finding that she really didn't know anything, she let her go. She was lucky. Almost everyone in the Volcano bar that day was taken back to the police station for interrogation one by one. In particular, several big men who were beaten away by Li Anping but survived had to be recorded while wearing plaster. He is still in the bureau to this day. The weather was getting colder, so Li Qian tightened her clothes. Her body felt cold and painful, but her heart felt warm. She touched her underwear, and there was a small bulge there. The camera she had used at the Volcano bar was lying there quietly, hidden by her and not searched by the police. Who are you? Dark, cold. Jay opened his eyes and found that he was tied to a pillar, surrounded by what looked like an abandoned warehouse. In the darkness, he looked down and found that the wound on his broken arm had been bandaged casually. However, the way he bandaged the person looked very unprofessional, which made him frown. "Nigger, you woke up earlier than I thought." Hearing this voice, Jay's mind immediately sobered up. He remembered that he was knocked unconscious after killing the man, and there were bursts of severe pain in his neck. It looked like his bones had been broken. So, besides that man, does the other party have any companions? "Nigger, I have a few questions for you. If you want to survive, answer me honestly." Jay didn't say a word. He was very angry after being beaten like this, but it was useless for him to get angry now, so he could only force himself to calm down and try to divert his attention by thinking. He listened carefully to what the other person said, but he couldn't tell where it came from. There was darkness all around, and he had no way of knowing how big the warehouse was, or even whether it was a warehouse. "There are voices coming from all directions. Are they talking to me on the radio? They made me invisible and tied me up. It seemed that they were targeting my abilities. Judging from the wounds on his neck and broken arm, it appears that it took no more than 4 hours. But why did you take me away? Logically speaking, the incompetent Shang Zhenbang is a better target. Didn't the other party succeed? Or was Shang Zhenbang also captured and both of us interrogated?" Just then, the voice sounded again, "Nigger, tell me your name." Jay thought for a while and replied, "Charlie." The other party was silent for a while, and then said, "Very good, Charlie, your cooperation will save you a lot of suffering." "He doesn't know my name? Or was it deliberately not revealed?" "Impossible, the interrogation is meaningless unless such lies are revealed." "He really doesn't know my name." Without giving Jay any more chance to think, the voice then asked, "Charlie, what is your relationship with Shang Zhenbang?" Jay thought for a while and replied, "He and I are classmates and we used to study at the same university." At that moment, the voice asked a few more ordinary questions, and Jay answered all of them fluently and made up random questions. "The other party has no interrogation experience at all. Is he a novice, or an amateur? Then we have to find a way to lure him over. As long as he is within the range of my ability, I will have a chance to escape Tisk. If West and the others knew that I fell into the hands of amateurs one by one, they would probably laugh to death." Suddenly, the other party changed the subject and asked in a low voice, "Charlie, what is your ability?" Jay knew that the other party would ask this question, and answered without thinking, "My ability is to poison. As long as I touch something, it will be poisoned by me. If an ordinary person is poisoned, his organs will fail and die within an hour." The other party did not answer. Jay was only responded to by deathly silence. "Charlie, I am disappointed. You shouldn't lie to me."